All right, guys, what is up? Stage 2 of the pick'ems coming right up. We got 6 out of 10. After the first 2 days, I think it was, we were in a great position. We had 3 out of 4 correct. We nearly had all 4, but Fluxo had a bit of a stinker against Chinggis Warriors, who did get the win in the end. So after that point, though, it was pretty straightforward. Anything past 5 is completely fine. But I was hoping to try and get 7 or 8 because I felt at one point that was a possibility. A lot of our teams, though, did play each other in those like 2-2 matchups, the 1-2 matchups, the 2-1 matchups. And so we ended up saying goodbye to Wildcard, Flight Quest, and Complexity. I did have Complexity. You can go back and watch my previous video, so I won't touch on this too much. I had them as my like gamble pick, big question mark over their head, because Halzerk not playing I thought would really impact them, and it did. To be honest, though, I'm not sure how much it impacted them because they looked lost completely, and one change shouldn't make that much of a difference. You saw protocols on like Inferno in particular, where Grim is just making mistakes. JT seems like he's just not sure what's going on, and they just look like a shambles, like straight up. And although a player change does make a big difference, don't get me wrong, and I don't want to be too harsh to them, the way in which they played is what kind of filled me with a little bit of confusion. So either way, they weren't good enough. Wildcard was probably the biggest disappointment for me after going 2-0 only with best of threes to advance. It was looking like they could even advance 3-0 because they were drawn against Bait and they did pick a map up against them. And then they just capitulated. They lost to Bet Boom, and then surprisingly they lost to Legacy, which not really as much of a surprise for me personally, but it's the way in which they lost 2-0 that was the surprise and the shock. Especially the second map, they got battered. So that's the state of affairs. 6 out of 10, happy with that. Still on for the Diamond Dream. Let's get into stage 2 and have a look what things are looking like. So first off, it's important to go through the matchups. Now I'm going to say right off the bat before I get into the matchups, some of these games are mega unreasonable, and I actually feel super sorry for Bait and Heroic in particular, because their reward for going 3-0, being the best team in stage 1 by a landslide, looking like a well-oiled machine, both of them, is you get to play Falcons and FaZe. The 2 top seeds, you get to play them, guys. Like, what is this reward? That's crazy. So Beta against Falcons, Heroic against FaZe, both best of ones, of course, as all of these are until we get to the elimination or the progression games, which is the same state of affairs as always with majors. Then you got 3D Max and Bet Boom, VP and OG, Pain and Amiga, Fury Lyn Vision, MIBR Legacy, and then finally M80 and Tyloo. And you can see or hear from some of those games that are taking place later in the day, Heroic and Bait got shafted, bro. I'm going to just go ahead and say it. If they lost a map or 2 maps, they have a much better game to start things off. That's crazy. That's wild. That seems harsh, to say the least. Sorry, I just hit my microphone by accident. I'm so animated. Oof. Compose ourselves for a few moments. So, the best teams in this stage will go with the same idea as I did last time. I got both 3-0 picks correct. We're starting off with Falcons. This is a no-brainer. I'm sure 99% of people are going Falcons 3-0, and for good reason. Some people may even argue they're better than Vitality right now. The stats don't lie. Vitality are the best team in the world. But some people expect that at this major, Falcons are going to dethrone Vitality and knock them off their perch. And this is Falcons major. A lot of people believe this. I can understand why. You look at their roster on paper, it is stacked with talent. One small chink in the armor, though, and an asterisk I will put next to Falcons, is that Nico individually has not been playing fantastically lately, stats-wise at least. He's not been the Nico that you expect. There is every chance, though, that at this major he steps it up a couple of notches because he is a player of that caliber. He is that damn good when he's feeling it. And if he does, Falcons will be unstoppable in this stage. I don't see anybody even getting close to them. No disrespect to Bait. They had a really solid stage 1, but this is a different level. This is a different ball game. Stage 1, if we're being honest, was a bit weak in terms of teams. Stage 2 has some much stronger teams, and Falcons is the strongest of them, hence the 3-0 pick. It's how I felt about Heroic in stage 1. They're the best team in the stage. It's not close. Heroic proved me right, and I think Falcons will too. Spoiler warning, I'm not putting FaZe as a 3-0 pick, but I will put them to go through, and I think they'll go through 3-1. I think it'll be fairly comfortable in the end, but FaZe historically drop maps in majors, going back the longest time, even when sometimes they've been one of the favourite teams. They always seem to just drop a map here or there. I'd never feel good about putting FaZe at 3-0, but there is an extra level to that as well. This will be the first time that we ever see FaZe playing as a 5-man roster with their current roster. Take into account that Dallas Simple did have shades of brilliance. He had shades of prime Simple, peak Simple levels, crazy, lovely. I think it was a 4K that he picked up on Mirage down on Con. Some really great shots. But they were playing with skulls. They didn't have their full 5. Rain wasn't there. And so we haven't seen them play together as this 5. That combined with how all over the place they've been as of late with the other 4 players. Obviously, they only switched out Brokey for Simple. The other 4 players are still the same. Sure, Simple may be a shot in the arm they've been waiting for. He could be a steroid to really get this team pumping again. But we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen this team together as a 5. That's what puts me off from putting them as a 3-0 pick. And they're playing Heroic in their first game. This is a 50-50 game for me, genuinely. Heroic are really good right now. And they could beat FaZe. It is a possibility. So I'm putting FaZe as a 3-1 contender. Not that it matters 3-1 or 3-2 as long as you have them here. They're going to make it through, I think, but it's not going to be as clean as Falcons. So who do I have as my second 3-0 team? It's tough. It's really tough. There's a few teams that I could feasibly put in the conversation for this. But they're all gamble picks, and I think every other team here apart from Falcons has at least one map loss in them, especially considering the opening fixtures. The opening fixtures are wild, but I'm going to take a risk here. I'm going to take a gamble, and I'm going to put Pain as a 3-0 contender. Now, I know a lot of people just rolled their eyes or said what, or something along those lines, and that's fine. If you disagree with this, which I'm sure many of you will, comment below and let me know your take on this, right? Especially Pain, because people are going to look at the stats only, and they're going to look at them without context, and they're going to be like, but Pain have lost something in the region of like 10 of their last 11 games. And that includes some horrible losses. They haven't won a map in their last 3 best of 3s. Their only team they beat was Hotu a month ago, but you're not taking the context into consideration. They played, if you cast your mind back, when they lost against like Astralis and they lost against some of the other teams that they had like pretty bad L's too, back at Astana, they were playing with Rix. They were playing with a 5th they'd never played with before, and he struggled. They also played before that without Big Azera, who is quite literally their IGL, their captain, their big brother figure for players like Snow. So you can look at their results and it looks really bad, because it is, but they've been going through a transition. They now have DGT, who is a really solid player, with Davideus, NQZ. That trio alone is crazy firepower. Big Azera, who we know can turn it on, and Snow, who's a really solid, aggressive player. This Pain roster, genuinely, if it clicks, could be a contender here. And they're against Namiga in their first game, who did surprise me. They did impress me, but their run to this point wasn't really spectacular either. I think it's the best of one that Pain can win, but it is a gamble pick, because I'm saying it could be amazing firepower. This could be an incredible team, but they could also crash and burn and not even make it out the next stage. So I am going for a proper gamble pick, and that's mainly because I think FaZe will drop a map. If I had more confidence in FaZe, they'd be in the 3-0 right alongside Falcons. So that's why I'm going for Pain. Next in line is the 0-3 picks. And again, this is quite tough, because a lot of the contenders are playing each other in the first game of the stage 2. You have M80 and Tai Lu. I think both of these teams are contenders. Legacy, MIBR. I think Legacy now, unfortunately, are a contender. And then Furia against Lyn Vision, also a contender. But I'm going to add another name into the hat, and this could surprise you. VP, I think, is a contender to go 0-3. No, I'm not joking. OG looked way better than many people, myself included. I had them as a periphery pick, like a team I was thinking of putting to go through, but I decided not to, because for me there was too many unknown variables how they perform actually at the stage itself. But they were fantastic. Nikodos in particular was just unbelievable, and if you can keep that form going forward, I think OG blow VP out the water. I just don't buy Electronics IGLing. I don't buy this team. It's you have players that a few years ago, if you talked to me about Flit or Fame, I'm like, these guys are world beater rifles. Like, they could go to a Na'Vi type team. They could go to one of the top teams out there and perform and hold their own. But after Jame and now Electronic have had their leadership stints with these players, they look like a shadow of their former selves. I feel really bad for both of them. This VP squad has done nothing of note. Like, you go back to their previous results, and again, you can't just look at the previous stats. It doesn't paint the full picture. But in the last 2 months, their only wins are against Big and M80, and they've lost to MIBR, Astralis, NIP, FlyQuest, Liquid, and G2. And in most of those games, they've looked hopeless. So VP is in the conversation for me. Like, genuinely, I think VP absolutely can go 0-3. I have very little faith in this team, but I'm not going to put them as 0-3. I might live to regret that. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go Lyn Vision, and I'm going to go Legacy. This one kind of stings because I really like this Legacy team. I backed them in the previous stage, and they proved me correct. They made it through. I don't think many people had them to make it through. I was one of them. And the problem is, though, that they lost to Lyn Vision in their first game, 13-7. That was a bit of a shock to the system for me personally. They managed to battle their way through, but the opening fixture against MIBR hasn't fared well the last time they played each other. It was pretty one-sided in favor of MIBR, who are, I think, the better team of the two of them. And then Lyn Vision, although they made it through to this stage, when you look at their trajectory and their path to make it here, it's not that impressive. They beat NRG, who were like, whatever, not particularly good. Before that, they beat the Chinggis Warriors, who went out 1-3. They lost to Namiga. They lost a wildcard, who also didn't make it, but they did beat Legacy, and that win against Legacy put them in a stronger position. Keep in mind, if they lost their opening fixture, they could have been in the 0-2 bracket quite easily, and maybe even went out 0-3. Woulda, shoulda, coulda, of course, all those things put into context, but my point is that their trajectory to the stage 2 has been far from impressive to me, considering some of the other teams that are in this stage did play against consistently better opposition and get some success against them. So I'm going Legacy and Lyn Vision, and if they do play against each other in like a 0-2 matchup, which is a possibility, then at least I'm guaranteed one of them to be correct. So that's kind of the thought process coming through into that decision making. But you could throw a Tyloo in there. You could throw an M80 in there as well, to be honest. I don't think M80 have been looking great at all as of late. That's genuinely up for debate. But I think Tyloo M80 is a bit of a coin flip game anyway, so that's why I don't want to go for either of them. Into our advancing teams, I'm going to say I think Heroic get it done. I was very impressed with them in stage 1. I think even if they do lose to FaZe, or if FaZe lose to Heroic, I think both teams will still find a way to make it through. They're too good not to. And so I'm going to say I think both of these will make it. After that, I'm going Furia. Furia or Pain were actually in the conversation for me as a 3-0 pick, because I think they're in a similar position. However, I do think that Furia have more consistency that I've seen from them as of late, because we did get to see Molodoy, we did get to see Yakindar, we did get to see Fallen as a rifler now in the IGL position at Astana, and they impressed me. And so I have more faith in them to actually make it than not, so I don't want to put them in the gamble for the 3-0, if that makes sense. It's kind of like a weird line of logic, but I'm sure you get where I'm coming from. I do think they're going to make it through, though. I have faith in this Furia squad. And that's been the first time in quite a while, let's put it that way. Next, I'm going to go for 3D Max. Now, although they're against BetBoom in their first game, and this 3D Max team has failed to impress me as of late. They had a really nice rise last year, turned a lot of heads, proved a lot of the naysayers wrong. Start of this year, we're looking pretty sharp, but they've had like a bit of a steady decline. They've had some very lackluster performances, some pretty rough results here and there, but they're still such a strong strategical team that I think that they're going to have the upper hand against some of these teams and squeak through. I could see it being a 2-2. I could see it being a last day job here for 3D Max to make it, but I am going to believe in them here. I think they just have enough, and I'm also going to go for BetBoom. I think both teams, again, regardless of who wins or who loses, I think both teams can make this. Now, I will say that BetBoom had a couple of shaky performances from Axile in particular, which could be a bit of a concern. Siren, surprisingly, was playing a lot better than normal, and Axile was a little bit off, to say the least. That is a bit of a concern for me about their prospects, but I still think that BetBoom have enough in the tank to get it done. Zorti was looking good. Boomich is still a really solid IGL, and I think that they are going to put themselves in a good position to make it, especially if BetBoom win. I think when we get down to the best of threes, that's where 3D Max are going to prevail against some of these other periphery teams like the Namigas, maybe Pain, maybe somebody like an MIBR. I think that's where 3D Max are going to shine a little bit brighter. So I think if BetBoom win their opening game and 3D Max go down to that 0-1 bracket, I actually think there's more chance both teams make it. And then for my last team, I've gone back and forth on this one quite a few times in my mind because there are 2 or 3 teams here that I think deserve a shout. Bait and OG definitely deserve a shout here. You can make an argument for Namiga. I think this is where Namiga, though, are going to just come undone. I think this is such a step up in terms of skill, in terms of, you know, map pools, in so many different variables. I think this is where Namiga shrink a little bit and they don't make it. MIBR, another team that you could certainly make a case for to do the business here. And I am gonna go with MIBR. I'm gonna go with MIBR. The reasons for this are that although OG were looking pretty good, a lot of the time it was the Nikodos show, and I don't know if that's replicable in this stage, and especially considering strategically a lot of these teams are just better than stage 1. I could see him getting shut down, and then I think OG run out of gas just a little bit. Although they definitely can beat VP in their opening fixture. They're another periphery pick for me. I don't think they're in the conversation for a 0-3 team at all. Bait, they nearly struggled against Wildcard, who didn't make it. And although I was very impressed with Bait, I think this is where the lack of experience, the significant step up in terms of ability level is going to hurt them. I talked about how BetBoom, for me, I was thinking of going for a 3-0 pick instead of Bait, because I think BetBoom, more often than not, are actually a better team than Bait, even though the stage 1 performance maybe doesn't signify that. But I think this is just a bridge too far for Bait. They've done themselves proud. I think they were pretty damn solid coming into this, but I don't think they're going to have enough gas to get across the finish line here for stage 2. And I'm not even thinking of VP. As I said before, for me, they're more likely to 0-3 than they are to make it. I could be proven wrong. Maybe this is where things click for them and they go through and they have a really good run. I think for some people, it might be worth putting VP as a 3-0 contender, even though I think that's madness. But if you want to go for a team that could crash and burn, but could also click, I don't think anyone's doubting, like, the skill on VP is undeniable. Like, it's not just Flit and Fame, like I was mentioning before. You also have Flammers, who's a really good player, and Icy's very capable of pretty solid things too. So if you want to look at like just the raw players, then you can make a case for VP to make it or go 3-0. I just have no faith. So I'm going to lock these in. Those are my pick'ems. I'm not as confident about this one as I was in the first stage. I'm going to be real. The first stage was tough. I think this is extremely difficult, and a lot of it is based off the opening fixtures. So comment below and let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you going to follow some of my advice, or are you going to go a completely different path? Let me know. Best of luck. And hopefully the diamond coin is going to be ours. If you're already out of the race, unlucky. Hopefully still playing along, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.